For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Shotgun Spratling for instant analysis of USC's 45-27 loss to Oregon State in the Coliseum. This is the first time that Oregon State has won in Los Angeles since 1960. Now, Shotgun, after the bounce-back performance we saw from the Trojans last week in Pullman, how do we see a game like this?
I think it's just a contrast in styles. I think USC going to Washington State, facing a team that likes to spread you out. You put a lot of DBs on the field. That's USC's strength right now. You're facing a team that is going to run a lot of heavy packages. Is going to run single back with two tight ends, which is something we saw from Stanford. That's USC's weakness right now. And I think that's the difference. This is something we were worried about coming into the season, not having that true nose tackle, some question marks just up the middle as far as defensive tackles and linebacker. And I think it's that is coming to, bearing itself out in the games that we've seen at home for USC, the Stanford game. Now, USC stopped the run outside that one big run, but they were getting beat in some of those one-on-one matchups. This game, Oregon State out-schemed them. Dante Williams said he got out-coached. On the defensive side, they just didn't have any answers. And I think that was the biggest thing is, they were trying to stack the box. They were trying a lot of different things and just did not have an answer for Oregon State. They ran for over 300 yards, and Chance Nolan was terrific. He was super efficient when he did throw the ball, and they were using a lot of play action, bootlegs, doing some different things, and just having wide open receivers because of how much USC was trying to attack in the box to stop the run, which they just never could do.
Mm-hmm. Now, you got to talk briefly with defensive coordinator Todd Orlando after the game. He denied that not having a true nose tackle was the issue.
Yeah, I asked him if that was, how much that's hurting them right now. He said that's not the case. He admitted, we tried a lot of different things, and unfortunately they just couldn't come up with the answer. He said that he has a lot of faith in this team and the players that are on that defense that they're going to bounce back, and we'll see how they can make adjustments, how they can attack those weaknesses that they do have without, being able to just bring in someone new, without bringing free agency and being able to have someone else. So we'll see what they can do there. It's going to be a challenge for them anytime they face a team that's going to, get in these heavy sets, because they're putting on 4 or 5 defensive linemen. That's not their strength. When they can put 7 DBs out there and you can get a guy like Kalen Bullock coming off the bench, that's the strength is those DBs they brought in. You've got some playmakers there. They haven't necessarily found those playmakers. You've got a lot of guys banged up on that defensive line too. If they can get Ishmael Sofsher back, Kobe Pepe, Jamar Sakona, get him in a rotation. Those guys, they need them to develop quickly if they're going to stop this from happening again later this season.
Mm-hmm. Now, on the other side of the ball, we got to see the return of Kedon Slovis. What did you think of his performance? I know all eyes were going to be on him, given the fact that Jackson Dart lit it up last week against Washington State. We did see Jackson Dart on the sideline. He was in a knee brace with a limp. We did report earlier this week that he did undergo minor surgery for a meniscus tear. Dante Williams said after the game that he's week to week, so we'll see about that. But as far as Kedon Slovis, what did you see from him?
Yeah, a lot of people are banging on Kedon Slovis after this game because the stats don't look good. 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. 2 of those late in the game. One of them was not his fault. He needs some help. He needs some guys to help him out. He's not going to make that extra guy miss that Jackson Dart is going to make miss, but he needs guys to catch the ball. And that's one of the biggest issues right now is just they do not have the guys catching the ball. There's too many balls that went off fingertips that were not brought in that they could have made catches on. He needs some help there. The offensive line was okay, not great, but it was fine. They opened up some holes for Keontae Ingram. I thought the run game got going pretty good for USC, but Graham Harrell said after the game that, he had the hot hand and we wanted to go to him, but once you fall behind, you can't run the ball as much as you want to with Keontae Ingram. So, I think that they got behind and were trying to throw the ball, but Kedon Slovis needs a little bit of help. I thought he was fine in his bounce back from the injury at Washington State, and we'll see where he can go from here if he can continue to build. But that camaraderie is just not there outside of Drake London, and Drake London's making a lot of catches for him. Another 10-catch outing tonight, but he needs some other guys to step up and make some big plays down the field as well as just some of the short ones to keep those drives going. And they shot themselves in the foot. Yeah. Graham Harrell mentioned the details that they had. At one point they had a 3rd and 1, and it turned into a 3rd and 11 after back-to-back false starts from Cortland Ford. So I think that they've got to clean up some stuff on the offensive side, and that's what we've been saying for a couple years now, that there's potential there, but they're not, there's making too many small mistakes that are leading up to the bigger mistakes that they're having.
Mm-hmm. Now, we've noticed the chemistry issue between the wide receivers and Kedon Slovis in spring. How do you fix this now in September?
I don't know. That's hard to say. It's not just Kedon Slovis. You saw with Jackson Dart, there were times when receivers would turn in the wrong direction. A part of it is they've got so many new guys that they're trying to work in, and that's why you want to have those blowouts, in 2 years ago and last year, so that you get those young guys some opportunities, and why you don't want to have to rely on a bunch of new guys to come in each year, whether it via the transfer portal or freshmen. And I think that's part of what they're going through right now. I think that a lot of their issues from the last couple years are coming back to bite them now.
Yeah.
Recruiting in the trenches. Saw it last week the offensive line. Saw it this week with the defensive line. But also, the recruiting with the wide receivers and not being able to get those guys and build them up the way that you would normally see USC do. I think that's coming. Those type of things are coming back to haunt them right now. And unfortunately, it's going to be a process to go through. And that's something the players said after the game, and I know some fans probably don't want to hear that. It's a process. It's been 2 weeks since Clay Helton was fired. It's a process to turn things around. It is going to be that. You don't necessarily want your players to have to say that after a game and, after you get blown out for a second time at home.
Yeah, and in that sense, looking big picture, the move that you needed to make was already made. Clay Helton is fired. If you're Dante Williams, how do you take this team forward from here?
You just got to get better. You got to find ways to attack your weaknesses. If you're going to be light in the trenches, you're going to be light at the nose tackle, how can you attack that in a different way? Can you bring extra bodies in? Can you use a Chris Thompson who was not available today in that safety spot and use him in the box? What ways can you got to get creative a little bit. And unfortunately, that's not something you're used to seeing at USC, but that's where they're at right now.
Yeah.
You're going to have to get creative with some of the weaknesses they have. This is not like you got a 4-star guy out there instead of a 5-star like you might have at some other national powers right now. You've got to be able to make up for some of the losses from the last couple of years that are coming to bite them now, that are coming home to roost. So it'll be interesting how they try to attack some of these issues. And one of the things is just getting guys healthy in specific positions, because they had some injuries tonight too. Drake Jackson barely played in the second half. Now, he was asked about it afterwards, said there was no injury, but he barely played at all. Isaac Taylor-Stewart left the game a little bit early. Michael Trigg had a knee injury as well, which was nice to see him get out there and make some plays. Yeah. But you got to get guys healthy. Those are the type guys that are playmakers. You need your playmakers to be out there. Isaac Taylor-Stewart made a great play with an interception in the first half. You need playmakers out there to make plays. You can have some guys that are going to, fill some spots and be those, just be the bodies that, absorb some of the other contact that other guys have. But you need playmakers out there at the same time, and you can't have them all standing on the sideline with minor injuries.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's still relatively early in the season. USC is 2-2. How critical will it be for Dante Williams to keep this locker room together?
Yeah, you got to keep the locker room together, and both the losses have been to North teams. So they're 1-2 in the Pac-12 right now. The Pac-12 South is not looking good.
Yeah.
The Pac-12 overall is not looking great, but there's opportunities out there for them still to play their way, if they continue to progress. That's going to be the biggest thing for them. Can this team get better and better and better? They have talent, and if they can put it together, they can, go on a run potentially. Because, again, the Pac-12 South is not that strong right now. Yeah. So if they can come out next week starting at Colorado, their first Pac-12 South game, if they can, just kind of set their place and say, hey, we're going to be one of the Pac-12 teams, Pac-12 South teams this Pac-12 South is going to go through us type of thing. And then by the end of the season when they're playing UCLA, maybe that's a game that is for the Pac-12 South. And if they're playing well, they can build on that and work their way to a Rose Bowl. But it starts with turning things around from this performance.
Yeah.
They got out-schemed at times on the defensive side, just open guys running, which is something we haven't really seen before, is just those open wideouts and stuff. So they got to fix those things. Now, Oregon State, a lot of motion before, a lot of eye candy, a lot of things to try to confuse them, and they were able to get on the edges some a little bit more. So these are things that USC's been really disciplined with, but tonight it wasn't the case. So they've got to get all that cleaned up, and if they do that, they have a chance where they can still make a run in the Pac-12 South, but it has to start this week in practice and even tomorrow. Dante Williams said that they will be back tomorrow and getting back busy trying to turn things around. But they've got a lot of stuff to clean up right now.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, Shotgun, any final thoughts before we wrap it up here from the Coliseum?
No, I think I've said pretty much everything. They've got a lot of work to do. But again, there is the talent, there is the potential. Let's see how it comes together. And if Dante Williams can hold that group together, that'll be a big thing. And if they play for each other, they have the opportunity where they can continue to get better, but we'll see where it goes from here.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, that's going to wrap it up from the Coliseum. For Shotgun Spratling, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out USCfootball.com.